We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Larry Says. We will have some pictures with this one, and I did open this picture this time, so I won't be such an idiot like I was in the last couple of questions. I missed that realizer question completely when I did these things. That's why I was like such an... I mean, I actually did research for this podcast, which is... I might not say actually like I never do it, but I didn't do it last time, and this time I did, and I felt very proud of myself. Somehow I missed that entire question. I just scrolled through it. Anyways, Larry Says... he's in the design phase of his theater construction to begin in the coming months. Aesthetics are not a factor in design. Goal is performance. The room will have flat black walls, dark gray carpets, black drop ceiling tiles, and wherever bass traps and acoustic panels are required. All equipment will be in a separate gear room. The dimensions are 19 by 10 with 7-foot ceilings. So he's got his layout attached here, which you can see. This is the only image we have.
And yeah, there's aren't really dimensions on it, and there's some confusing sort of lines all over the place, but it gives you a basic idea. It's a rectangle.
Legible. It's a rectangle, and
it's a rectangle, and we see where the screen is going to be.
The bottom, right?
The bottom. That's right.
Okay. The attached layout, he's planning to use SSSO2 bipole speakers as the surround left and surround right. He owns a pair of SBSO1 bookshelf speakers. Dude, I straight up review. That's one of my early reviews of those speakers. Those are nice little speakers. They're ugly as sin, but they are nice little speakers. I was very impressed with them. Would they be a better choice for surrounds in an Atmos DTS X setup over the bipoles? Does having 2 rows of seats make a difference? I think, honestly, that yes, that I would probably prefer the direct firing bookshelf speakers. And since he has
really,
I think so. 2 rows of seats.
Yeah,
I kind of think that he could, if he's got enough. He's gonna have a hard time finding more of those speakers, but he could put 2 rows. I mean, the bipoles would be fine. I have bipoles, so I am one not to really talk.
Well, I would definitely put the bipoles as the side surrounds and the regular bookshelves as the surround backs. Because I wouldn't use bipoles as surround backs.
Oh, well,
surround backs have always supposed to be.
I was not suggesting that. I was suggesting not using the bipoles at all.
Oh, I see.
I was suggesting getting bookshelf speakers for all of these speakers.
Oh, I gotcha.
So 2 on each side, one next to each row, basically a little bit behind each row of seats, and 2 at the back of the room for surround back. So
I see.
6 total speakers is what I'm suggesting. Now I know you don't want to hear that, and if you don't want to hear that and would like to use the bipole speakers, then you're going to use those as your side surrounds, and your direct firing as your rear surrounds.
Man, I'd be fine with the bipoles as the side surrounds, because that's just like a really wide dispersion speaker.
Yeah, it's fine. It's
fine
just
for your side surround.
A little bit, I don't know. Anyways, he's thinking of buying 4 RSL C34E in-ceiling speakers for the height channels, but he's heard us mention RBH and in-ceiling speakers more than a few times. Would RBHs be better than the RSLs? I looked at these RSLs. I am not familiar with RSLs. I've never heard of them before. I'm guessing that his installer or person who is selling
Audioholics has been hyping them up quite a bit. So
have they really?
Yep.
I obviously haven't been back to that website in a while. Anyways, RBH, my guess would be RBH's. You could definitely find a better offering than whatever company. It really, XXX company. You pick the company, and you can find something that RBH does that's better than what they do. I generally believe that to be true in almost, I would say, 90% of the cases. That being said, I'm sure these are fine. I mean, these are going to be fine for the question is, would RBH be better? And my answer is probably. But you don't have to spend the money, and you can get these other ones, and they'll probably be just fine. You can probably spend less.
The reason RBH comes up so frequently is because very often people are asking us for something that we think will match well with their existing speakers when their existing brand doesn't offer an in-ceiling or an in-wall solution.
Right.
And RBH comes up because they're so neutral that they match well with almost anything.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so easy to recommend them. First of all, they have the broad selection of types and form factors that they have a solution for just about anything. And then their sound is so neutral that it's easy to match with just about anything. Yeah, the RSL speakers, I haven't heard them. I don't know. I think their design is a little bit weird. I gotta
be honest with you. I kind of agree. I like the fact that they're edgeless and they have a magnetic grill.
Yeah.
That's nice. But the recessed driver is kind of angled.
Yeah.
Makes me think that they're supposed to be on the ceiling and like angled towards you a little bit. I don't necessarily agree with that design. I think that they should be just firing straight down. I think that Dolby would agree with that.
And
I
like
think
the
that
RBH A100s are not crazy expensive.
Yeah.
So
these are 125 each. So
yeah, the A100s I think are right around the same price.
These, I mean, they're like, oh, the ultimate choice for Atmos, ETS, home theater, stereo.
Well, out of their lineup, sure.
This is literally all of the ways that you can use speakers. I mean, the only thing it's not good for is subwoofers. Okay, thanks. Thanks for the tip there, Ma. So I'm sure these are fine speakers. I'm not necessarily in love with the design.
Yeah.
And they'd probably be fine. I will say that. If you can find something that's the same-ish price from RBH that fires straight down, get that. That's basically what I said.
Yeah, kind of leading there too.
For the time being, his subwoofer will be the SVS PB10 NSD, which probably came with those other speakers that he has.
Could be.
But down the road, but it's a ported box 10 with a kind of a lower, if I remember correctly, that's a pretty big sub. Nice, though. But down the road, he plans to replace the PB10 with a matched pair of better subs, so which subwoofers would be sufficient to pressurize this size of room? Should we answer that first before we go to the next thing?
Yeah, well, 19 by 10 by 7, I think he said, right?
Yeah, dude, PB10's going to crush that room, like straight up.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a gigantic room by any means. I mean, any of SVS's subs will pressurize that room just fine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, if you wanted to keep your PB10 NSD and add a PB1000, which is the current model that lines up basically the same with it, that would work out just fine, in my opinion.
Yep.
I don't think you need 2 brand new subs.
I definitely don't. I definitely agree with that. I was going to say the same thing. You do not need to buy a second sub. This sub is going to do just fine in this room.
Yeah.
And the PB1000.
We certainly agree that dual subs ultimately, yes.
Yes.
But
dual subs, but you don't have to buy
add a
2
PB1000 to what you have.
I mean, unless you want it first. You said aesthetic things were not concerned, so save some money, dude.
Yeah.
Just saved you like $700. You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Ideally, he'd like to do a subwoofer crawl with a calibrated mic and Room EQ Wizard. However, since he won't have the subs until after the room is built, he won't have the opportunity to do that. But since he still needs to know where to drill for the wall plates based on the layout plan, where do we guess the best placement for the subs to be? We don't have a guess, dude. We have no guess. We can tell you exactly where the best place will be for these subs. Midpoints of opposing walls or opposing corners. So
yeah, and in this room, I think the middle of the front wall, middle of the back wall looks like it's an option, assuming you leave yourself, just enough space. It looks like he's maybe going for a false wall because he talks about an acoustically transparent screen coming up. Now there's nothing wrong with taking, say, like your PB10 NSD or your future PB1000 and turning it sideways. Subwoofer don't care. You can turn it sideways. It's only 15 inches wide. So if that false wall is going to be 15 inches or more, if you're going to have 15 inches or more behind your back row of seats, then you can use the middle of the front wall, the middle of the back wall, and you'll be golden.
Yeah. Can we talk about where his screen is? Is that coming up here, or can we do it now? Okay,
yeah, it's coming up a little bit. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Given that the room is, quote, quite small, end quote, like 75% of our audience now officially hates you, dude, because you've got a really nice sized theater. It's not huge. Okay.
Yeah, the width is a little bit narrow.
But the 10 feet is perfectly adequate.
10 by 19.
The 19 is great.
Yes.
So your room is not quite small. It is very nice. A lot of people are envious of the size of your room. So he'd like to mount the speakers as close to the wall as possible, maybe flush against the wall. So is that advisable? If so, how would we recommend doing that? And if not, what speaker mounts would we recommend? The surround speakers weigh 18 pounds each.
Yeah, and he was mostly talking about like the bookshelf speakers, the SBS 01s, right?
Dude, you can just straight up build a shelf. I mean,
yes.
that is the easiest way to do this. And this is what I did. I got a piece of plywood, right? I put on a black metal bracket, and I think I sprayed the plywood first, but I spray painted the plywood black.
Yep.
Mounted it to the wall.
Yep.
That is it.
And those bipole speakers that you have are already wall mountable, so that's easy.
That's done. Yeah, I would literally do shelves. That's the easiest way to do this. If you go ahead.
Want an actual mount, there's that VideoSecu company that we quite like. VideoSecu has some side clamping wall mounts, work really nicely. They can hold up to 33 pounds each, so 18 pounds should be no problem for them.
Mount one of my children to the wall if I really wanted to.
It does mean that it's not like the back of the speaker is pressed against the wall. There is about a 3-inch gap, I think, or something like that, but that's a nice way to be able to aim the speaker a little bit if you want to, and then it holds them very securely with that side clamping design. So we'll have a link to that, avrant.com.
So for display, he's thinking about an acoustically transparent 120-inch screen, which would be about 56 inches high and 104 inches wide. I didn't do the math on this. I assume that you
That's
did.
about right.
So I know. I mean, I don't 104 inches wide. I'm trying to think. Does that include the actual?
No, that's just
bezel?
the screen.
That's just the screen,
no frame.
Right?
Just the screen.
All
itself.
right. With that screen size, it is a 9.5-foot seating distance sufficient to not have eye strain concerns. It would be wiser to buy a smaller screen and worry less about the second row of seats. Oh, so first of all, only worry about your row of seats. Where are you going to sit? That's the row that you worry about. Everybody else.
The second row is a little bit of concern here because he doesn't have infinite space in this room. This,
true.
19 feet does place a limit, which is if you do want some space behind that rear row, and if you can, I would recommend it. I would recommend like a minimum of 2 feet. 3 feet would be great. But then you also need at least 5.5 feet between the second row and the first row. Like we're talking seat to seat, right? You need at least 5.5 feet. 6 feet is great, but 5.5. And then you're talking about having this acoustically transparent screen that's a little ways off of that front wall as well. So space itself could start becoming a concern in here. You could end up with that rear row pressed right against the back wall, which is less than ideal. If you could avoid that, that'd be nice.
I don't really care about that last row. Gotta be straight up on this.
Well, I'm more worried about having the room for the sub behind it.
That is true. Well, we do need whatever that is. You can turn that sub to the side too. Don't worry about that.
That's right.
So yeah, I would worry about your front row of seats and not your second row of seats. And the easiest way to know, we've talked about this multiple times in the podcast, the easiest way to know what screen size you need is to go to a movie theater and sit yourself in the place you want to be, and then count the number of steps that you go up to the front of the theater, and count the number of steps across from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen, not from wall to wall, but from the size of the image to the other side of the image. Now, easiest way to do this is to do it either early in the movie or during the credits at the end when everybody's leaving. And you can do it right there while the movie's going on. And then everybody will think you're weird, but there won't be that many people left. And go see a movie that's, been out for a while. Then you will know the ratio for how far away you like to be to the horizontal
width of the
screen. The horizontal measurement of the screen. Then you can come back in here and say, okay, well, I like something that's 3:2 or 8:1 or something like that, or what I mean, I like something like that. Then you go and say, okay, for every inch I am away, the screen has to be half an inch across, or a third of an inch or an eighth of an inch across. And then you do the math of how far away you're sitting, and you know how big your screen should be for your preferred distance, and then make it a little bit bigger. Whatever you come up with. If it's like, I like 87 inches, you're getting a 92-inch screen, dude, or 90, if whichever one is because if not, if you order a special size just because it's exactly what you like at the screen, you're gonna pay like 5 times as much, easy. So you're gonna get whatever's there. Don't go down, go up. Always go up.
So just to let you know, your proposed 9.5 feet from a 120-inch screen gives you a 50-degree field of view.
That's awfully big.
To me, that's pretty big, but some people really like that. That could be perfectly reasonable. Also, if your plan is to put all 3 of your front speakers behind your acoustically transparent screen, then that sort of makes sense, because that way all 3 would fit nicely behind there, and you'd still be within Dolby's guidelines for the spread between your front, left, and right speakers. I would suggest that might be pushing it with the length of your room, because I'm like, if you've got 1.5 feet to 2 feet for that false wall, if you've got 9.5 feet from there to your first row, a minimum of 5.5 feet to your second row, all of a sudden you're down to 1 foot behind that second row, and you're done. That's all you got. I would maybe suggest to you going for a 9-foot viewing distance using a 106 or 110 inch screen. If you want the 50-degree field of view, you go for the 110 inch screen from 9 feet away. I know that doesn't sound like much of a difference, but all of a sudden you can get 2.5 feet behind your rear row, 5.5 feet to the front row, 9 feet to the screen, and 1.5 feet or 2 feet for the false wall for the screen. And all of that fits a little bit more comfortably into a 19-foot long room, in my opinion. So that's my suggestion to you.
I have to be honest, I'm not in love with this false wall.
Well, I'm pretty sure he wants to have his speakers behind there.
Okay, I'm still not in love with the false wall. I understand that.
Yeah.
But with the room this size and having the problem here is not the size of the room. The size of the room is great. The problem is trying to stick 2 rows of seats in this size of room, which is obviously doable.
It's very doable. Yeah.
But it's making things a little bit more difficult. So I also don't like the fact that he's got a screen on the, if you're looking at the image here, on the bottom, right? Because on where his right in front of his front right speaker would be the door.
Yes.
So every time someone comes into this theater, they're gonna open the door and they're gonna block part of the image. You know?
Or just make it a left-handed door. I mean, he's got a right-handed door right now, which is going to crash into the screen unless you put a doorstop onto it.
Yeah.
So
I
make it a left-handed door.
Why don't you just turn this theater around? I mean, I understand why, because you want that second row of seats to be right there, but put a love seat in the back.
Well, he's already going to need a love seat in the front, though, because that was actually one thing I didn't mention. In his email, he mentioned something like a 88-inch wide seating. I'm like, how are you going to get to your second row?
Yeah.
You only have 120 inches wide unless you're going to push the seating against one side wall.
Well, you could do that. 10 inches on one side.
But you need a minimum of a 2-foot walkway on at least one of the sides, and that's really squishy. 2.5 feet is comfortable, 3 feet is luxurious. But yeah, I was like, you gotta be careful with the width of your seating there. It's fine if you want to push it all the way up to one side and have yourself a walkway just on one side. But yeah, just be cognizant of that. That's all.
Yeah, can we have the door open out rather than in? Is that an option? Yeah. I mean, you're building this house, right? Can we have the door not open into the room? Because that would be better. Then I don't care what side you put your screen on, but it just seems like you're asking for a doorknob to go through your brand new expensive screen. Yeah. To be honest with you. All right, things to think of. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.